Let's go national right now.
Yeah.
A lot of big games this week.
Yeah, it's the time of the year where you really start looking at the schedules around the country and seeing some of the teams kind of peeking ahead, thinking about the tournament. And there's some good games coming up.
There are. We have to start with my alma mater, Cincinnati. They go to Houston.
They go to Houston.
And this will be a good test for them because I always feel that they don't play enough competition during the season. But Houston is definitely
Houston's
their nationally ranked team.
Yeah.
So they're going to definitely give them a
Cincinnati's knocking
test.
on the door. Yeah, I think that's a big test. It's a road game. So as we know, road games in the conference are extremely tough wins to come by. So when you get one, if you can get one, they stand pretty tall. So that will be a good test for Cincinnati. But I think, there's others too. One game I'm looking at that I think there are two games actually. One is LSU and Auburn in the SEC.
Well, here's the thing about Auburn, because I know LSU is ranked, but Auburn was ranked high.
Auburn was top 5, top 4 early in the season.
So what's happened?
They've kind of faded back a little bit. Folks kind of catch up with them a little bit. I think a little bit goes into, I'm an AP top 25 voter, and I speak from that standpoint. I think a lot of my peers buy into the power conference bias. So as soon as you attach a name,
the blue bloods.
Yeah. so they automatically think, and that's not, Auburn, they're one of the best teams, and so hey, put them in there, and they're not. And that's not to disparage Auburn. I think that goes across the board. But they're still a good team. Don't get me wrong. So I think that's going to be a good game. And I think the one that I'm really curious, another one I'm curious about is Villanova at Marquette.
Yes.
I think both of those teams have kind of grown on people as the season's gone on. Of course, Villanova's defending national champions, and everybody kind of put them off to the side with their early season struggles. But they've come back, and they're really playing good basketball, as is Marquette. So I think that'll be a good game as well. But you got a couple others.
Well, the last game that we'll look at is Kentucky at Mississippi State. Now, Kentucky's won 8 in a row.
Oh, Kentucky's starting to roll.
Where's this come from?
Oh, yeah.
So now they look like the Kentucky that we were used to in the past.
I think one thing that they're doing that a lot of people underestimate, generally speaking, about college basketball, and which I think actually impacts negatively on some teams over the course of the year, is how teams improve. Kentucky has markedly improved, but because they're Kentucky,
yes,
people can
Speaking
look
of
at
blue bloods,
and people can look at that and go, oh wow, but they don't pass that same mantle on to other teams that do the same. There are plenty of teams that are improving across the country, but because of Kentucky's marquee value and whatever, people look at it and can discernibly say and tell, hey man, they've really improved, which is true, but there's other teams doing the same. So I'm anxious to see that. The thing that's interesting now is now you start looking at them and say, remember that game early in the season when Duke just blew them out the water? Yes. You start wondering about that game again. What's that game going to look like if it comes around again in March? And other games and other teams like that are doing it around the country. Another interesting game, I know you mentioned it earlier, is North Carolina State at Pitt. North Carolina State's had some struggles of late. But they got a local kid.
Yeah, keep your eyes on Markel Johnson.
Yeah.
If I said his first name right. But East Tech kid.
Yeah.
And doing well.
Yeah, played well.
Averaging 11 points a game, and you thought he was a little bit higher
I think
earlier.
he was a little bit higher early in the season. I know he's been nicked, had a couple of little small nagging injuries, but that's a team to keep an eye on too. They've played well over the course of the season, and if they can get their sea legs back, they'll be in the mix down the stretch as well.